Unit 5, Genesis 5 and the importance of genealogies. So here we are at Genesis chapter 5. So Genesis 5 is the genealogy from Adam to Noah. Now, usually if you're in a Bible study and you get to a genealogy, especially a whole chapter that is just front to back genealogy, there's this word that comes into your mind when you get to that. And usually most people, the word that comes into their mind is skip and then move on, right? But this one is interesting. So if we look at Genesis 5, it goes from Adam to Noah, and these are the people in between. So we have Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. So here, what's interesting about this, one thing, is that they actually give us the ages. And at this time, people lived a long time. And so there's lots of discussion about the earth and all these kinds of things that would support such long lifespans. But what it says in Genesis 5 is it gives how long each of these guys lived. So Adam actually lived 930 years, according to Genesis 5. Seth lived 912 years, right? And then it gives the years for all the rest of them. It's funny. Enoch, if you look down there, he actually didn't die. God said that God took him or translated him up, right? But every year, every other person, it gives the exact lifespan and also says when their son was born and all that stuff. Now, if you look down at the bottom, you see Noah, and we learn that Noah did live 950 years, but we don't learn that from Genesis 5. So we're actually going to take that off because at the end of Genesis 5, Noah is alive. In fact, Genesis 5 is the connecting bridge from Adam to Noah. Well, you're like, okay, so what? Who cares? Well, what's interesting are these exact names. So the name Adam actually is translated man or person. And we talked about in the last unit, Seth means set, appointed, or fixed. So what's funny is somebody once noticed that what would happen if we just looked at the meanings of all these names, because we can kind of learn about what the meaning is pretty accurately from the root of the words that the name comes from, right? So we're not going to get into the Hebrew, but these are actually the meanings that we see in Bible dictionaries for these exact names. And you're like, okay, so what? Well, it's just kind of interesting, right? From Adam to Noah, right? Noah is the story of how God saves mankind, and we'll get to that coming up. But if you just focus on the meanings of the words and you just read them down, you get kind of an interesting picture, right? And they have to be in this order. If they're not in this order, it doesn't work. But look at the order that they're given. Now, and tell us, who does this kind of remind you of? Man or person, set, appointed, or fixed, mortal, human, or despaired, possessor, purchaser, who prays a God, come down as a slave, dedicated, disciplined. He has sent his death, poor, made low, brings rest and consolation. It kind of gives you a picture of Jesus, right? Now, this is not a for sure thing. It's just kind of an interesting little piece that if you just look at the names in the order they're given, it kind of gives a very loose summary of the Christian gospel, which is cool. Not something you build doctrine on. I could definitely be wrong. It's just kind of an interesting little point. But the purpose of Genesis 5 is to get us to this important character, Noah. So before we examine Noah himself, we have to understand the days of Noah. This is a very interesting phrase, and it's a really important concept for understanding the context of the flood. So what we're going to do in the next unit is we're going to spend one unit looking just at the days of Noah, understanding the context of the flood. So join me in Unit 6.